Well, hello everyone, this is Jake here, back with another edition of Demko Modelworks. This is part 5 of our client John's 537 scale Reliant build. And from the last time you seen this from the YouTube videos, I now have gotten quite a bit done on it. Now I have most all the decals put on, top and bottom. I have the roll cage assembly put down and one nacelle attached. And tonight I'm going to take you through and show you the assembly and what goes through the wiring part of the starboard nacelle. But I have everything done now. Just got to wait on some more decals to come in so I can put these back on, because I'm missing a couple of them. But I have, you know, the inside and everything completely done with those. All the wiring down, run through, and you know, all the light. Have my strobe light up here. Have my photon torpedo bays lit and ready to go. I now just got to put some. I'm gonna be going back through here last thing and put some canopy glue in each one of these photon tubes, and touch them up with a little bit of red paint. That way it shows through with some red paint. But it all lights up, looks real good now. And went through, spent the couple of nights ago, I went through and put all, you know, the detail parts on, the detail, the pinstripe on here for that goes around the side here. Got the insignia down on the bottom side of the ship now, and everything, you know, everything's looking good, ready to go. Got to paint though. Still got to paint the front ends of these right here to where it's got that bluish green color to it, and go from there. And then I can put all my final coating on there. Of what I'll do is I'll go through and spray a gloss coat over the whole thing, and then after that dries, I'll give it a small wet sand, light wet sanding, and then I'll go back through and put my final matte coat down to where, or the dull coat down on top of this to where it gives it that right look, so to make sure everything's sealed in. So, but moving on now, let me move this out of the way and get it out of my way. We can get back on the bench. If I can get it where I need to be. Alright, so a little bit going on now. This is the piece, the chiller grills we got from Don's Light and Magic. And I have the complete, what you do, I found out from my buddy Cameron, is the best way to get these black lines painted in is you just spray paint the whole thing black, and then just take out your pick like this, or your scribing tool, and go through and just scrape out the paint that goes in between, that goes in the recessed line there, and it comes out to where it turns out real nice. And we'll show you that a little bit later on. But now what we're going to be doing is going through and installing our lighting for our port side nacelle. And I've gone through now and sprayed my black on the inside to where it has that nice ring on the inside, to where it'll hold to where you can get a real nice, it gets that nice glow. And then once we get all of it together and puttied, I'll go back through and spray my final coat over top of this to where we don't get too much spray paint, too much paint over the areas that need to be, just lightly coated over. So, but I'm going to grab some sprue here because we're going to need it. And I don't know if I saved any of it from the trees, because we're going to need a little to get our LEDs set in place. Let me drop something here. Have quite a bit of leftover wire from the other nacelle, so I'm going to try to use some of it. So what I'm going to be doing is we're going to be using, I already made up these 10mm white LEDs, and what we're going to be doing is let me zoom you in a little bit. And I apologize if you hear some noise coming out. I've got the heater plugged in. It's quite cold out in the shop, so give me just a second here to it's quite cold out here. So what I'm going to be doing is I've already installed my 470 ohm 1/4 watt resistor, and it works. We got two of them, one for the front and one for the back. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be wiring in, getting it set about halfway up to where it's going to be setting, the LED is going to be centered. Let me see if I can't get that in shot there for you. Get it to where it's going to be centered about halfway in between, to where it lights both sides of the nacelle, lights up the inside of this nacelle nice and evenly. And then I'm going to be installing my LED light strip right down here in the bottom. So what I'm going to be doing is I have my LED cut, my LED light strip cut, and we're going to be going through and showing you how to solder that up and wire it in. So let me get this the camera resituated here to where you're in shot. Alright, let me get down on my, so we have our magnet wire here. I like to use 26 gauge, and so this is going to work perfectly for what we need. So, and I already have these ends have already been tinned, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do it some more just to make sure. And I like to use my Dremel sanding drum to clean it off. After you use a lighter, you can use a lighter, or if your soldering iron's hot enough, you can just go through and the solder will get it hot enough. So alright, so let me get my I like to use this this tip cleaner, tinner and cleaner. It works real good. It's about $4 for this pick this up at Fry's, or if you still have a Radio Shack, they might still carry it there. But I got this up, so let me get my soldering iron on. And these soldering irons, it works real good if you have it to where it'll work about 800 degrees. You want a real good one there. So now let me get my tip tinned. So you see that smoke coming off real nice. So once you see that smoke, your tip of your soldering iron has got enough solder on there. So all I can do is just touch the tip end of the, you don't need a whole lot, just enough right there, and it'll and you can see there's a nice little bead of solder on that. So now that we have that on there, I'll take my my wire that I cleaned off. And what you want to make sure you do is I've mentioned this many times before, is I use the 26 gauge magnet wire, red and green, the red for positive, green for negative. So you want to make sure you pay attention to your LED light strip there. It has one side is marked negative and one side is marked positive. So you want to make sure you get that lit up, or put in the right spot, or you can end up shorting out the system. So just touch it right there until you see it smoke, and it's hold it there for a second. Now it's on there, so now you don't have to worry about it. So let me get let me get this other piece. All right, now that's on, and you can tell it's on there because you can pull pretty hard on it, and it's not going to come off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply this to the bottom side of this side, so where it'll reflect out this direction. So I'm going to get my, let me get my Insta set here for my my CA glue. And we'll peel this off. If I can get my fingers to work here. Alright. Make sure you're in shot there to where you can see. Get this kind of centered. Alright, there we go. Now we got it marked. You know, we got it down to where we need to be. And so now that that's down, sitting where we're needing to be, I'm going to go ahead and put some CA glue down here to make sure, you know, to tack it in place to where it ain't going to come loose. And you don't need a whole lot, because that's not a whole lot of an area, and you just, you know, a little spritz there and it's done. Alright, so now that that's in place, I'm going to put this in here and make sure that it, you know, it's attached and light, you know, working. So I'm going to get my I'm going to clean off these ends here. One thing you always want to do, folks, is make sure you test everything before you hook it up, plug it up, you know, seal everything off, or else you're going to have to, you know, you don't want to have to tear back into your model. So, but you see right there, we have a good connection. So, and again, folks, I apologize for the light. The camera is always going to overexpose any light that we have out here. So, alright, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark this so we don't forget where, you know, what. You always want to make sure you mark this each time you do something, or else you're going to end up forgetting what it is and have a circuit not tie in, you know, be tied in where it's not supposed to be, or so we're going to mark this chiller grill. And that way we know it is what it is, and we can always go back through and cut it down later when we get ready to attach the nacelle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and attach my kind of tack down my wire right here to where it doesn't move or break loose on me, because that'll be the one bad thing if it breaks loose on you on the solder joint. It could, you know, you might have to tear back into the you know, the kit or the piece, and that can be, you know, costly or timely. So, all right, now we have our now that we have that in place, we can go on to the forward light right here that's going to be. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of sprue, take a, you kind of want a bigger piece of sprue, you know, kind of a thicker piece. That way, when you tack it down on the inside, you know it's going to be sturdy and it's not going to you know, have a chance of bending on you or anything like that. So, and you want to make sure that you can. I always start out with mine maybe about see what it is. Let's see what it is. A little less than an inch, about an inch. And then once you mount it inside, you can always cut it down with, you know, with your snips. So so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of see here where I'm at, kind of position this to where I'm going to get some good lighting. So I think right about there is going to be good, and we'll mount that about halfway in between. So I'm going to get my my glue. I'm going to the wrong side. And make sure I have my straight piece there. I'm going to hold that up to where it needs to be. Now it looks about right, so we'll get our CA glue Insta-Set and hold it there for a second. Sometimes it takes a little longer to set up. Alright, we'll let that set up for a second, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start wiring in, start using our wire here to from our other you know, from spare wire. And it's always a good thing to save, you know, if you have a little extra wire, you know, left over from other areas. That's what I always try to do, save a little bit of money. Because then, and we're not going to be going very far with it, because this is going to have, we're going to have 3 different circuits coming out of this. We're going to have our main power. We're going to have our main power coming out for the forward and aft lights of for the nacelles, and we're going to have one for our flux chiller grills, and we're going to have one for our strobe. So I got enough here just to come out of the front here. Okay, so now that we know that this is working, because I tested it, what we'll do is we'll go through and make sure you're in shot there so you can see what I'm doing. Actually, I'm going to cut that down just a little bit. This isn't like the scale of the refit, so you're not going to have a whole lot of room to work with this. Well, I might have cut it too short, but what I'm going to do is get my tweezers here, and hold these together. So I'm going to get my other pair of pliers. That way I know I have a good hold on it. And I'll just twist it around. There we go. Get my, and again, you tin the tip of your, and once you see that puff of smoke, you got quite a bit on there. So now I can just slowly take this and start watching it come off on the wire and the dealing. I always add just a little bit extra on every time I do a joint, because of the fact that it reinforces the fact that there's solder there. And I will tell you that when you do it this way, you will smell the enamel burning off the solder. Off the wire, and it's not going to be a very it doesn't smell very, very good. So just be forewarned on that. So I'm going to take my negative and wrap it around a couple of times. And then what we'll do is we'll test it to make sure we have a good connection. Go. Alright. Clean that off. Now we'll make sure we have a good so we can see we can have a good joint, so have a good connection. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some heat shrinking tube to my joint there to make sure I don't get any accidentally touch it. It touches together while it's in there, because it could come in contact with each other, and it could short out the system real quickly. And what I'm going to do is put it on the other side. Alright, I'm going to take my just enough to where you start seeing the joint come through on the wire joint. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with my the aft section of the nacelle, and get my wire. Actually, let's see. I might be able to do. Yeah, I'm going to use the smaller stuff here. But I already have this pre-cut and everything else, so it's going to be good. I'll do the same thing. Grab a hold of my wire here. Okay, I have that there. Well, thought I did. Yeah, I do. So now I'm just going to twist that around. And clamp it in. And do the same thing. Alright. You can really smell the enamel burning off. And you'll see it start taking to the metal once it starts, you know, getting hot enough, and so now we have our. We're going to test it and make sure it's okay, and we have a good connection. Alright, so now that that's done, we have that ready to go for the back side. So now I'm going to mount the LED kind of sort of in the center, and kind of eyeball it here. So, you know, kind of about. Let me get a marker here and kind of mark where we need to be. Right there's center. So now that we have that there, I'll make sure that y'all are in shot right there. Kind of make sure that it's centered. Again, this is hard being left-handed and trying to show y'all stuff at the same time. So now we got that set in place. I'm going to put a good amount of CA glue in right there. Get my Insta set. Hold it in place for a second or two until it takes. And I always like blowing on it to kind of help it dry up a little bit. Alright, it's there. So now what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing on the back side here. I'm going to do the same thing on the back side here as I did up here on the front. I'm going to cut a piece of sprue and mount it in the back. So when I'm going to get my thick sprue and wrong piece, and grab this piece right here. Kind of clean it up a little bit. Alright, let me readjust the camera here because I don't think y'all are completely in shot. There we go. So now, I'm going to get my LED that I just wired up. Oh, and before I go too much further, I need to get me a piece of shrink wrap. Pull this apart. This tape isn't going to be kind to me tonight, so hang on, give me just 1 second here, folks. You want to also be careful about when you do what I just did. You don't want to, when you cut that tape off, you want to make sure that you don't cut the wire, scrape the wire with it, because it could short it out. if you accidentally scrape off the enamel. So that's one of the things you want to be careful of. Alright, let me get this set. Alright. So now, I need to make sure that we're set in a good, get this marked at a good spot, which would be right about here. CA glue. Get that set down in there. Alright, I'm going to let that set for a second. Sometimes it doesn't take instantly. All right. Get this set down in here now. Make sure that that's nice and yep. All right, now now that you have this shrinking tube on there, you can close it together now, and now it's not going to have a problem, you know, shorting out or touching one another, making, you know, having that accidental touch to it. So again, we want to make sure. Let me get my center mark. Looks to be right about there. Alright, so now let me get my glue out. And if this doesn't set quite, you know, it won't set quite enough, you know, quite quickly enough for you to have to worry about it. So you can get it in there and get it into position. And once you do, alright, now that that's set down in there, let me blow this excess off here to dry it. So now it's set down in there to where now it should light up both sides nice and evenly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of these, both of the front and the back, and solder those, you know, cut these two pieces together. That way we don't have too many wires coming out of the top, because you don't want, you know, you want to make it as easy as possible to come out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get just enough to where I can solder these down inside. About like that, and then we'll take one of these pieces and wrap it around. So let me clean the wire off. And with this enameled wire, if you use a lighter, you'll see kind of like a flash go through, you know, go on it once it's lit up. Once you see that little flash, the enamel is off. So let me do the I think I have a clean clean tip here, so let me just kind of clean this back off. Alright. And then what I'll do here, again, there's many different ways, but this is the way I do it, and this is the way I found to be most effective for me. I'm going to clean, let me go ahead and clean this tip off just while I'm here. Alright, and then once we get this done, we'll go ahead and put our piece of shrink wrap on. And this won't take a whole lot of solder. And you can just slowly rub it across, and once you see that smoke from your soldering iron, you know you've got solder, you know, connecting to your wire, and you have a good joint. Alright, let me get me a... What I'll do is, before I test it though, before I put that shrink wrap on, I'll go ahead and test it. That way we don't have any surprises. There. Go ahead and twist it. I'm going to go ahead and clean off my wire as well. That way we get that out of the way. Alright. I'll tin the tip of my soldering iron, and then I'll just go ahead and lightly rub it across. But once you see the solder start sticking to the wire, you know you got a good connection. But I like to add just a little bit both sides. Alright, now, now that we have these on, I'm going to go ahead and test them and try to make sure. Well, I thought I had it clean. Hang on just 1 second. I thought I had this one piece clean, but I guess I didn't. Alright, now here we go. We can test it and make sure these lights have a good... So just by testing it like that, we have a good connection on both ends of the circuit. So now we know that that's done, I can go ahead and put my shrink wrap on. Go ahead and cut. I'll go ahead and do it on both sides since this is open wire, just to be on the safe side. Now in the long run, with a lot of Ralph's boards, all the positives usually always run together. They all tie together and then go into the positive terminal of the board. But I like to, you know, get them all there and all run separately. But Alright, so now we can set this down inside, and what I'll do there is I'll go ahead and get it tacked down with some CA glue. Hold it in place, make sure it doesn't bounce out. Alright, what I'll do now is go ahead and we'll mark this one main power, because these will be a constant on. Alright guys, well the main power is done. Now we're just down to one circuit, and that'll be the strobes. So let me get the LED for that. We're going to be using a 1.8mm LED. So let me move this nacelle back, get it out of the way. And I got my my resistor right here. We're going to solder on. I'm sure this is pretty much a lot of nonsense to y'all, since some of y'all may have already know how to do this stuff. Some of y'all don't, but if this is helping y'all, I'm happy. But being the reason why I'm going to tell you, the reason why I'm cutting down the LED leg on here is because it's a going to be in kind of a short. It's going to be in kind of a short area, small enclosed area. So you don't want a long piece of the long wiring and all that kind of stuff coming way down here. It can get in the way. So I cut that down just to make sure that it give ourselves enough room. Again, guys, I apologize for the background noise. That will be my heater, and then the main AC is coming on. It's 35 degrees outside right now, so it's without it on, it's really cold. So I just want to make sure I don't freeze while I'm out here. I'm gonna go ahead and put my wire on my. We don't need a huge section of it, just enough to get through. So I'm gonna cut off a little bit. And I broke my LED. Apparently I didn't have a good enough. Good enough solder joint. Sometimes that happens. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and fix that, make sure there's enough on there. You don't want that breaking loose. Like that. Alright, I'm pretty confident about that one. Alright, so now I'm going to wrap my wire around. Apparently I'm having troubles tonight. Hopefully that'll be a good enough. That'll be a good enough stick to where it went through. I think it worked. Alright, now let me get my green wire. I'm going to cut down this other leg. And one thing you want to make sure too is when you cut down the legs on these LEDs, the positive is always going to be a little bit longer than the negative leg. So you want to make sure that you always want to leave, when you cut if you cut your leg, your LED, make sure you leave the positive leg a little bit longer than the negative. That way you don't get them confused and blow the bulb when you tie them together. You know, when you wire in your circuit board, because that could be very bad for the board if it gets touched, especially if you're running it on a 12-volt system. Clean off my Alright. Alright, so let me clean off my tips of my wire and make sure that we have good leads. Let me straighten those out. And we'll be close to being through. Alright, you can see we have a good connection there, so we can go ahead and put our piece of shrink wrap on there. Hopefully it'll be big enough to where it'll cover it. Get a longer piece here. I'm going to go on the other side this time. And we'll make sure that you get it to where it's hot enough to where you can see the individual resistor shrunk down right there. So now what I'm going to do is we've got to get this centered into the nacelle, and I've already gone through and drilled out, you know, a hole good enough to where this will sit down, in the middle right there. And I'm sorry about that, I didn't see you. Let me zoom in a little bit and show you. See if you can see see if it'll zoom in enough to where it'll focus. But right there, you can see the little hole for the LED, the you know, where the original LED is supposed to go through. So what I did is I just took my Dremel and grinded it out just a little bit there to where it would sit down close enough into this. And with these LEDs, you have to kind of be careful about bending them too much, because these are very, very, very fragile LEDs, and they will break really easily. So make sure that we get it. This can be the hard part. Get my get that right there to where it's held. Sorry about that, folks. I did not know y'all was not in shot. I sprayed some CA glue. I put some CA glue right there to hold it in place, and got it with some CA, you know, the Instaset, and got it down. So, all right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and tack all this down right here. Take all these wires and tack them down now that we have our LEDs set in place. Alright guys, well there's that. Now we don't have to know, you know, we don't have to use our the tape unless you want to you know, because now we know which ones are which on this. So now that's down in place. So what I'm going to do now is cut off these, you know, cut these pieces off right here, and test fit this to where make sure it'll set down on there, and then off camera I'm going to go back through and scrape out the black out of here to where it'll have the blue showing through. And then what I'll do is I'll go through and make sure this gives a, you know, make sure I have a snug fit in here. I'll get it set in place with some hot glue and light block it and make sure it's ready to go. So let me cut this down just a little bit. And that glue broke loose on me, so what I'm going to do is take a little bit more and tack it back down. That's the one thing about CA glue, is it doesn't hold very well if you lose it. So it doesn't hold as good as the, so that one broke loose on me, so I had to go back through and take a little bit of CA glue and re-put it on there. Alright, now let me go back through here and do the same thing to the back one. And that one broke loose on me too, so no worries. Just add a little bit of CA glue and tack it back down. Alright, now we can take our two pieces and we can see that they go together really good. So we'll go ahead and finish this off camera, guys, and we'll get this together. Next time you see this, it'll be assembled, painted, and everything, you know, sanded, puttied, all that good stuff, and we'll go through and probably take you through, show you how to lay down some decals on this, and then the last video we'll have will be the finale, because I have to go through and build a custom base for this and go through there. So, and we'll, you know, I'll show you a little bit about that. So until then, guys, take care, and I just want to say thanks to everybody again. It's been a fun ride, and I hope to continue helping everybody with these video builds. Have well over 6,000 views now, guys, and that's just great. Keep them coming, folks, and I'm glad I can help y'all out with some of these video builds. And if y'all have any suggestions, I'll put up my email address, which is jdemco80@gmail.com. You can contact me there, or, you know, contact me through Facebook, you know, or Facebook, which is my same thing as the Demko Modelworks YouTube channel, just Demko Modelworks on Facebook, or you can leave me a comment here on YouTube. So take care, guys, and we'll see you around the community. And as they say out there, guys, happy modeling, everybody. Good night.